Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. Today we have two representatives from H&R Block. We have Rita Arens, the Director of Digital Products and Platforms, and then we have Kristen Harris, the Director of Data Science and Analytics. And today we're speaking about the big topic of using data to improve human help in virtual settings. So welcome to the show, both of you. So it's such a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and could you just both go ahead and introduce yourselves? We can start with Rita and then we'll go to Kristen.
Sure. My name is Rita Arens, and I have been working in the DIY tax preparation space here at H&R Block, back and forth over a period of about 2 decades. And I've done other things as well, but the biggest thing that I am excited about is how much we are able to use data now as opposed to in the past. So I'm excited to dig in and talk about this with my best buddy, Kristen, who enables us.
So I'm Kristen Harris, and I have been working at Block now for about a little over a year and a half. And it's been pretty fun to come in the middle of a huge transformation. It's really fun to be in data right now. And then it's especially fun to be in data at Block, where we're making a bunch of changes and improvements and just kind of driving to more of kind of data first. And so it's great to work with partners like Rita, who really care about what's going on and want to start telling better data stories.
Yeah, definitely, especially with data and technology just constantly advancing. There's so many moving parts and different problems there are to solve. So it's really exciting to be in this field right now. And my first question I wanted to ask was to Rita. So what kind of projects that you work on that involve data that really help improve the humans in a virtual setting right now?
Well, obviously COVID, it created a new virtual setting for the entire world that was unexpected and new. We had already been dabbling in that space. We've had virtual products for years. And that's probably one of the favorite parts of my job is injecting humans where appropriate into a virtual experience. One of the reasons why that's one of my favorite parts is because for many years, before we had the data, we made assumptions that people who had more complicated tax situations were the ones who wanted human help. Now that we're able to actually crack that open and see, we find that people do their own taxes for 2 different reasons. Some of them do it by themselves because they got it and they know what they're doing and they feel comfortable with it. And some of them are just price sensitive, and it tends to be the cheapest option. And so we find that there are a lot of people who have pretty simple tax situations, but they just want somebody to hold their hand. And so we need to find better ways to inject that human at their time of need, and looking at how people are interacting. And, they're on this page for so many seconds. They go over here, they click the help center, they call in. Crunching through those numbers help us realize where some of our assumptions were incorrect and what we need to do to fix them.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure that you might run into some challenges with building these virtual settings with your team as well. So what are some challenges that maybe you've kind of encountered?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones for us is just, Block is a company that started out as a retail company. We have, pretty high name recognition. I think there was an H&R Block office in one of the Monty Python films, if I remember correctly. And so people associate us with the retail offices, but we do have a DIY product that you can use. And then we have a lot of virtual options that kind of have crossover. But I think we're like Walmart and Target and everybody else, where you start off a retail company and then you develop a virtual arm and the data is kind of housed differently. And so that's something that we're working on making that access more consumable, so that, the round thing over here goes with the round thing over here, and it's not square on one side and round on the other. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to really make it very user-friendly. And Kristen, my next question goes to you. So I wanted to ask, how does your work and Rita's work kind of complement each other?
Yeah, and so for us coming in as data partners, right, we want to enable Rita to be better at her job. We want to be an enabler, right? We don't want to be a roadblock. We want to help Rita tell her story, get the resources that she needs, and know what's going on so that she can improve the product, right? I never claimed to be a product manager, so I can only tell her and look at the issues that she brings to me, right? Like we can go through the data and come up with hypotheses, but when you work really closely with someone like product management, someone like Rita, who really gets data and wants to know what's happening from the data, not just, qualitative stories, that becomes powerful. So how we help Rita and how we work with Rita is if she's coming up with a new idea, something to launch in the product, we'll go through and kind of pull examples of what has happened in the past, provide her insights on like, hey, that's a good idea, maybe not. When she's implemented things, our team kind of helps set up some of those pilots. How do we measure pilots? And then also, like once it's launched, how do we help Rita tell her story? How do we help Rita say that she was successful, right? Those are the sort of things, like data is a cost center, right? We're very expensive. We have high talent that costs a lot of money. So we want to make sure that we're supporting our business partners so that when they have to pay us, right, they're excited to sink money into our cost center. So that's kind of what we think about ourselves. Is how
I think the partnership is really important because it's one thing to pull a report and hand it to somebody, and it's another thing to use visual language like graphs and charts and help people immediately see areas of opportunity. And that's something that Kristen's led her team to start doing a lot more. I meet pretty regularly with them, and when they show me like different ways to look at the same data in different visualizations, and then I can help educate them like, okay, this one makes sense to me, this one doesn't, walk me through the whole thing. I always appreciate it when they're willing to sit down and just kind of like slowly take me through it, because otherwise, we all come to this from different skill sets, and a lot of product managers come from either an IT background or more of a marketing communications background. And so depending on which background you came from is going to influence how you absorb that data. And we want to make sure everybody's understanding what to do with what Kristen's team finds, because otherwise it's useless. If they just give you something and you don't know what to do with it, it's not a good experience.
And it's really a journey for us, right? So like maybe in the beginning when I first started, a lot of what we were giving Rita was just like widget counts, right? Like this is how many products on this is how many products this day, this is how you did this day. So it was just kind of widget counting, kind of like how you're doing. And then we're slowly getting deeper into like how are clients interacting with the tool? Where are they getting stuck? Why are they getting stuck? We're going through a full journey through how people are reaching to our call center from the product. Why are people reacting to our product the way that we are? So like as you get deeper and as your business partners trust you more, you're able to answer harder questions too and work with them iteratively to kind of have a more powerful story.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point of, I've heard a lot of past guests talk about the trust within the organization and the trust within your partners. So it's very clear that you've both really built that trust to really work together well. And Kristen, what are some thoughts and processes that you think about when you're kind of mapping out different technologies to build?
Yeah, so for me, one of the things I think about is what can we actually do? And I think this is a step that people forget about, right? Like you see it in movies, on commercials, like all of a sudden you're thinking like ML, I can do anything with data. But what we haven't taken it back to is like, wait, are we actually collecting the data we need to feed these machine learning models? Like data isn't magic, it's built off of information, and you have to be capturing that information, collecting that information, having it across time. And so for me, a really big mindset change and something thinking about building technologies is what's your original infrastructure? Have you built out like a database, a data warehouse, any sort of framework that actually enables the more cool stuff? And I think that like when we first came in, like you need to have a solid foundation before you can do the cool work. And that's probably one of the reasons why Rita and I are so close, because that first year it was just constantly like, well, we don't have that, can't give you anything. Well, you didn't capture that. Oh, that's in a database by itself. We can't do anything with that. And so like working iteratively to make sure that you have a foundation set to feed data where your analysts can access it, not just IT applications, is a huge deal. And I think that's overlooked a lot.
Yeah, the other part of it too, I think, is that a light bulb went on for me when I realized that I needed to always be telling my data partners what I was going to do with what I was asking them to find, instead of specifically asking for something in particular. So I am interested in saving money in our call center. So if you tell me that all these people are calling in and we don't know who they are, then I'm going to try to change something in the product so that we can better identify them, so that we can not have them sit on the phone in a long waiting session. So I don't know what data I need to make that decision. Please help me figure that out, rather than just kind of saying, here's my order. I would like, a Big Mac and fries, it's kind of like, I would like to feel full without feeling gross. How do you help me do that?
I was like, well, that's a hard one, Rita. But
Yeah, no, definitely great insight from both of you here. And Rita, my next question is for you, but what kind of advice do you have for those interested in going into a more data technical field?
Well, I would say, for one thing, I have 2 degrees in writing and no degrees in data. And when I was getting into my career, none of the jobs I've had in the last 15 years existed. So I would advise young people, instead of trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, is just to identify what you uniquely are good at, that maybe you're better at than other people. So in my world, that's storytelling, which you wouldn't think that would parlay into digital products, but you can take your superpower and parlay it any way you want, And so I would just say, be a really lifelong learner and be plugged into what you're good at, and just keep striving toward finding ways to use your strength in whatever job that you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice out there. And Kristen, the last question I wanted to ask is, how do you think the future of data will be transforming in the next couple of years?
So for me, what I think like the end consumer is going to be seeing are just things getting easier, your experience getting easier, right? Like when we collect data, like, trying to sell a product, marketing, there's all of those pieces, but really there is a big component of data of like, how are people interacting with the tools that we have, and how do we make them better for the end user, right? So as we get more years of data, as we get more people through and collect better data on people, like your interaction with the tools that you're using, with the technology that you have, should be getting better. Like data should be making people's lives better. And so like, that's kind of what excites me most about my job, is like, I get to get up and make improvements. Like I get to make the world a better place. I get to help Rita make your taxes a little bit easier, right? Like if I can do that sort of thing, like, and so from an end consumer, where do I see like data transform in the future? Like making your life a little bit easier, like, right? Instead of spending 2 hours doing taxes, you spend 30 minutes, and then you have an extra hour and a half to watch Netflix. Like some of those things you don't necessarily put a face or like a process to data. Like it's really data in the back end that's helping drive like an easier experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to say thank you so much, Rita and Kristen, for joining the Data Standard Show today. We really appreciate your time. And where can everybody find both of you online? We can start with Rita and then go to Kristen.
Well, you can look for me on LinkedIn. I'm Rita Arens. Our website is hrblock.com. And so my products are the online products that people can use.
Yep. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Definitely don't try and find me on other social media channels. Just kidding. Yeah. So LinkedIn is a good one, and hrblock.com. I'm in the data side. So, yep.
Yeah, perfect. And to our audience, for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. And once again, thank you so much for both of you for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to hear more about your backgrounds and your stories and basically what you're working on together as a team. So thank you so much.
Sure.